Welcome to another episode of the Making of Champions. And today I have a great friend of mine, person who's been at this thing called track and field for years. Let me introduce the guy who was a national champion in college, gone on to have stints at Division II, Division One athletics as assistant coach, as was also on the world stage representing a country if I remember, Saudi Arabia.
Yes, sir.
And so let me introduce you, my friend, a person who of multi-talented facets, Coach Hassaan Stamps at the Director of Cross Country Track and Field at Warner University in Florida. Welcome.
Thank you, man. I'm glad to be here. I've been a fan of your show. I've watched, tons of episodes. So, kind of privately in my own mind, I'm like, hey, man, he ain't ever gonna ask me to be on. So when you hit me up with that, I was actually, really excited and very thankful for you to do that. I wanted to show my gratitude and be here and let people, know about me. I mean, it's crazy because tons of people think they know, but they don't know.
Well, we're gonna get a glimpse of who you are, what you're about, and everything that comes up. I've known that you've come from you're from Georgia, Atlanta area. So how did you kind of besides I know you went to Tennessee and you started there were on multiple relays, you did your thing in the hurdles. So what kind of got you really inclined to do coaching?
Okay, well, my sophomore year at Tennessee, I was kind of going the athletic training route. I said I want to be around sports, so I kind of felt like the greatest expanse would be in athletic training. Was interested in it. Unfortunately, chemistry and I did not get along. So anytime I realize that I'm spending 7 days a week, and I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but like I work really hard. So if I put my effort into something and it's just not working, I'm a realist to understand that then this just ain't for me. So I failed a test. I go into Vince's office, and this particular day, it was a fall day, but it was like a really nice day. So he was just, Vince Anderson is my coach, great mentor and like a father figure to me, and has become a great friend. This quirky guy. So he's just sitting with his hands behind his head, and it's just an amazing smile as he looks out the window. And I just pop my head and I'm like, Coach, you got a minute? And he's like, yeah. So, I kind of laid my frustrations on him, man. Like, how am I supposed to know what I want to do for the rest of my life inside of these 4 years that I'm supposed to be in college? It's stupid. And I understand how difficult it's going to be to have track as a full-time, occupation. And he just looks at me and, he just says, find something you love and find a way to make money doing it. And I didn't really feel like it was like super prophetic or just that deep, but it hit me in that moment as I sat back and I looked in his office and pictures of people, Sam Grady and Leonard Scott and all the guys and young ladies, Kelly White, who was starring at that time that he had coached, and being from west side of Atlanta, I'm like, well, how I do this coaching shit? And he looked at me with his big A's and I was like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, man. I mean, you get to be around the sport in a capacity unbeknownst to like everybody else. You work at a university, they're going to pay you good money and all this kind of stuff is kind of just like my initial thought. So he kind of digs in his desk. He comes up with this book and it changed my life. It was Tudor Boompa's The Theory and Methodology of Training. And he gives it to me, and he was like, well, if you really want to coach, you got to understand the science behind it and the way that we program and why we do what we do the way we do it. So I'm in the middle of my semester. It's a Thursday, and as you may know, at some of those Power 5 schools, Wednesday basically starts the weekend. So you start hanging out Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, and I get home, and kind of calls are going out. It's Thursday, like, Stamps, you coming out to so-and-so and such and such? I said, nah, man, I'm chilling. I open this book up. I literally do not come out of my room till Sunday. go to class, I do that stuff, but I mean, I'm jigging to get right back, what I'm saying, to this book. So on Monday morning, I beat him to the office. I throw the book down. This is what I want to do, coach. Hell yeah, for sure. And immediately, I started talking to my advisors and whatnot of changing the psychology and sports admin and sports administration before the sport management at that time. And then sport management kind of came at the tail end. So I got my bachelor's degree in a double major at University of Tennessee in sports management and psychology. And then got a coaching job at Cal State LA was my first coaching job. Now that was a little premature in the nature of I had signed one of the year deals with Adidas. I run 4980 and a 400 hurdles, and Tennessee and Adidas would take care of their athletes. Small little deal. If they said if I make USA finals, then I'll get to go overseas. So literally like 2 weeks before USA's, I'm running with Gary Kakai, a gentleman that won the outdoor 400 my senior year, ran 44:51. We're just jogging around the track. For whatever reason, I didn't zip up those little leggings that have the zipper down the like calf and Achilles area.
Uh-huh.
Tennessee always has these big gusty winds. I was on the ring committee for the outdoor conference championship we run, so I was trying to get to that meeting, and I was trying to leave it out warming down, cooling down. I told Coach, I said, I'm gonna jog to the place I'm going to. Coach, like, I'm gonna try to get over there. He's like, you're a professional now, so you ain't clocked out yet. I said, dang, yeah, you right. And so I'm just kind of shuffle jogging, minding my business. We're talking crap to Gary around the track, and this big gust of wind came up. Right foot got caught up, tangled in my left pants leg. I'm realizing I'm about to fall, but I was kind of up, staggering around. So with this big smile on my face, I was like, let me just kind of tuck and roll because I don't want to twist my ankle. I don't want to hurt myself. Not realizing that where I chose to sit myself down on was the inside rail. So the outside of my right foot, you just hear this, and then my head got really warm. I come to a little bit and I'm like, what? And I can't put any weight on my foot. And Gary Kakai, who's from the Democratic Republic of Congo, goes, shit, your foot. Compound fracture, the bone split out of my foot, bust through my shoe, career over. And I don't think you even knew that.
No.
So me being hard-headed, I was like, all the doctors were like, every time it's that fifth metatarsal by the base of the heel, and that's like a major, blood vessel way. So like the calcium isn't going to attach, to the bone like it used to. And I just like shattered it, busted it. It was all the shit. And so I said, well, I want to see if I can heal naturally. So I stayed in a cast for 6 months. As soon as I got out of the cast for 6 months, couldn't put any weight on it. Obviously, doctors were right. I said, all right, surgery time. I was out for another like 8 or 9 months. I was walking with a cane as a 22-year-old or 22 and a half, 23-year-old man. That wasn't sexy. And then I said, well, since I can't run anymore, let's get to this coaching stuff. And that's how I ended up at Cal State LA.
Mm-hmm. And then, at Cal State LA, you had some national caliber people to go on the national, do some great things. You scored a good amount of points at Cal State. And so, how was that transition going from an athlete and getting into the coaching realm and then having success that year?
When you start realizing like how you end up in your purpose, I realized that God really positioned me around great track minds. Ernest Dixon from Quicksilver Track Club, my youth club, it still exists to this day, has put out hundreds of thousands of athletes, scholarships. So I've always been very fortunate to have good coaches around. So whether it was things that I did early on that, workouts that I did, I always had the ability and capacity to call Vince. I kept every workout that I had in college. I was one of the youngest guys to get into level 2 I was still a junior in college when I went to my first level 2 um, uh, USA track and field educational deal. So I bought into all that education, knowing and understanding that I wanted to be really, really good at my craft. I've always been just a tenacious competitor, being undersized, being overlooked. I always kind of had to compensate by attempting to be the smartest guy in the room. And when I stepped out at Cal State LA, thanks to Chris Asher, who was the head coach at that point, saw, a light in my eyes. And I had a brother that was out there in San Bernardino, so I would have to commute one way, and you lived in Cali. I had to commute one way 54 miles the days that I'd go to the track to train. And then there was a little Metrolink. I could ride the train every so often, but that was expensive. As we all know, our sport ain't football, it ain't basketball, and to kind of get your foot in the door, you got to work for free. And that sucks, but you do it because you see that this is the pathway, for you. So what I really just did was, Coach Asher was gracious enough to, say, hey, well, I know you got the skill set, but I coach the sprints and hurdles at Cal State LA. I'm gonna need you to become a really good jumps and multis guy. I said, not a problem. I never wanted to typecast myself as only this or only that. So a lot of people realize, like, for the jobs I've had and the jobs that I've lost and the things that I've done, people are like, well, how do you always land on your feet? And it's because of my understanding that if I don't just say that I coach this and I coach that, then I could be very marketable in this profession. And I talked to Vince and Coach Watson, Coach Webb about it. There weren't a lot of guys that were like me. I opted, so this was like a big thing. Is I've always been like a strategist and a tactician. I said, well, let me go get really good at jumps and multis for the front 10 years of my career. Like I said this in year 1, because the sprints and hurdles is my bread and butter.
Right.
My deal is when I get back into that position, I'm going to have such a tool belt of things that people are really going to have a problem. I'm like a Swiss Army knife. So out in California, I learned so much about the jab, the disc, the multis, the jumps with Sheila Hudson, who was American record holder at the time, I believe, while I was out there just listening to that woman describe the triple jump and the things that needed to happen, greatly advanced my success. Triple is actually one of my favorite events to coach, believe it or not. So that's where I kind of had my proving grounds. And then, so I got out there in 2003 at 23 years old, and I had my first national champion in 2006. I had multiple All-Americans there from my first season, but had that national champion in 2006 that led me to Vermont.
Well, see, a lot of people don't know the pathway, and this is where it's a great thing to hear the pathway of what you came from a stud athlete at the University of Tennessee, have a professional contract, and then because of an injury put you off, and now you're going into really into the coaching aspect, have to work for pennies, and then work your way up, and then you see the fruits of your labor, having national champion, having multiple All-Americans, which move you on to Vermont. And then, I'm not going to go through the whole gamut of where you've been through, but yet you've had a lot of stops you had from Division II to Division I, then you go to Power 5. How was that transition of moving from Division II to a Division I program, and then moving to a Power 5?
Okay, so and I think you'll really feel this take on it. And it's sad that our sport is like this, but the world is like this, and we can't, unfortunately, change the world. It ain't what you know, it's who you know. Mm-hmm. Period, point blank. You've been a great coach at every place you've been at, but all of a sudden you're validated when you got that USC job, right? People say you've arrived, you've got there, you've made it, and now you're TCU and these things. So at a young age, when I got the Miami gig, everybody's like, well, how? Well, look, I've been cutting my teeth for the 4 years. I broke 25 school records at Vermont. I had national champions in quality. Like, track is track, and people like to think that, or what they won't tell you is, because of the university's dynamic, that does all the recruiting for you. So I'm calling the same kids at Vermont. Okay, I'm Coach Stance from Vermont. I got to work so much harder. I called some of the same kids when I was at the University of Miami. The very second I said, "Hey, this is Coach Stance from University of Miami. Hey, mom, turn off the phone. Put the baby to sleep. Daddy, Miami's calling." I'm the same person. I'm just representing a different brand. So, you know, I'm I'm such a straight shooter that, like, it's very, very clout chasey for me, in the sense of kids nowadays, programs, uh, the NCAA. I remember when, you couldn't go to a school and, like, have your name up in the billboard, or not billboard, but, what I'm saying, on the scoreboard, or put a uniform on and all that kind of stuff. So as these transitions and shifts and things that we see go away, I mean, just this past year, they've done away with 5 visits. So now, if you're one of the top kids in the country, you could literally be gone every single Thursday, Friday, or every single Sunday, Monday of your high school situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so mind-boggling to me that we, in a way, lost our way. But I don't think it was any different. By coming from Tennessee, experiencing the success we had and the type of coaches we had, it was actually a double negative, and better yet, a double-edged sword. Here's why. When you're at that pinnacle, you see things and movements and communications and lines that might seemingly be kind of dicey to cross. Like, I've seen the war room of finalizing a SEC roster at Tennessee, to where Webb was like, "You get to be in here, don't say nothing, but just watch and observe." And I'm seeing these coaches, well, this guy, I mean, they're battling. I think it was 26, 27 guys we could take. And those last 3 or 4 guys, everybody wants their guy that isn't. And then Coach Webb has to make the decision. And then this, coach, this guy's pissed off, and Coach Vince is pissed off. And then, like, the air kind of comes out, and, well, I'm buying dinner. We're going to get beers and food. And everybody's happy again. I'm like, well, what just happened? Because y'all was calling each other the worst of the worst. So because we were in that that mode and that energy and that life and light of chasing national championships, there was a very aggressive approach that was used. When I went to these other places that weren't like that were trying to be top 5, and I mean, I literally had a person tell me, as long as we're not last in the conference, like, it's a successful year. That's not good enough for me. What? Last in the conference? Why are we not trying to win? What pockets do we have to be in? Yeah, we don't have to do it like this. We can do it like that. Y'all only scored this amount of points last year. How come? Where's the what it takes to score sheet? You mean to tell me you don't break down all your scholarships with last 5-year average of what it takes to score? Huh? And you're the head coach? And I'm not saying that unknowingly and like sheepishly, because, again, I've always been in my mouth has got me jobs, and it's got me fired from jobs, because at the end of the day, depending on the room I go into, there are people that are trying to achieve what I was a part of, but then they're reluctant to ask me how it got done. What way can we do it? What things need to happen for this to take place? I won't mention the name of the school, but there was a school that said, we have to give everybody a full scholarship or else they won't come. No, they got to choose you. Do you know how many people that were really good could have got full scholarships at Tennessee? And because we drove, like, unless you're a top 5 guy in the country, and Webb said, listen, I will cash you out. Be top 5 at the national championships, you got your fool. If not, you 80, you 70, you 60. But if you want to be here, be here. If not, go somewhere else. Don't have a chance to win championships and get your full scholarship. We don't need you. We'll build our guys out. And so at that institution, I signed 4 or 5 kids for like 60 or 70% because they had academic money, they had some financial resource and Pell Grants and all that kind of stuff. And you would like, we found another dang near full scholarship because we just didn't burn through fools, outright. So to be somebody that has been at a place that was an epicenter of success, to then get hired on at places that are either trying to find their footing, have established their footing, and they're fine being where they're at, or they're afraid of what they don't understand, and a person that has the capacity to articulate what it is that needs to happen, even if that's not essentially his role, even though as an assistant, my job is to assist you. So I would always be like, I'm trying to help your program be better. Why are you mad at me? So I think that was a long-winded answer to answer that, but that was how that came together for me.
No, it's amazing how we have similarities in everything we've done, from the D2 and going to Division I, and then going to a Power 5. And I've experienced those same things, and you see different things, and so I think a lot of people out here have to understand that there's different calibers of what you're looking for, and then what the expectation is going to be different, even from the Power Fives sectors. Like certain things that are not looking at where you can be, and I'm always in that fight. Like I'm going to be number one in everything I'm trying to do, and to have any mindset less than that, it's hard for me to phantom that, to process that process. Is like I want any of the athletes that I'm working with to be gunning for, to be the best that you can be, and let's go out there and slay giants. Even if you weren't supposed to have done that. Hey, let's go out there and see what we can do and slay these giants. And same thing at the team, try to get to those aspects. Now, how did you move on from university to being with Saudi Arabia?
All right. So during my time in California, I'm a huge believer in like 6 degrees of separation. So like, not only does God author all these moves, but it's always funny that the impression you make on somebody, the first impression is a lasting impression. Mm-hmm. So when I was in California, again, in my learning, figuring things out, Leonard was out there as well, my teammate Leonard Scott, and he was training at HSI at UCLA. So, every so often, when I could kind of get my schedule together and I didn't have to work, I would go out with practice with Leonard to watch and to learn and listen to John Smith. And, that might have happened like 5 or 6 times. So if that was like 2003, 2004, they just knew that I was somebody that, was a disciple of Vince's, was Leonard's friend and teammate, and was just kind of, getting his coaching started.
Right.
So fast forward to like 2011, I was at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville with my guy, Kareem Jackson. And Coach Vince called me. He said, "Hey, Saudi Arabia is looking for an individual with your skill set. That's something that would interest you." I was like, I'll always have a conversation, You don't know what you don't know. So they one of the managers contacted me. They flew me to London, England for an interview. I killed it. And then I had an offer by the time my flight got back to Atlanta. Before I, went back to Illinois or whatever. So Prince Nawaf bin Mohammed, who was the president of the federation at that time, was looking for a single guy with like Arabic ties. My name, even though I'm not, I don't practice Islam, I'm a Christian. Coach Smith, John Smith, said, "I think there was a boy with an Arabic name used to come out here with Leonard." and I'm pretty sure he's doing good. Leonard said da 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 da. So it was just like that's how they got with Vince, and then it kind of came back with me. And it really, really worked. I got to learn about the culture. It's a beautiful, Islam is a beautiful religion, no different than, I think any religion is. It has their pitfalls, it has their extremists, just like we have ours. But that was a watershed moment for me, because here it was, I'm trying to elevate myself and prove myself that I could be a head coach at the college ranks. And before I could be a head coach in the college ranks, I'm leading a federation in a country. And like, people didn't understand that. I didn't even understand that for a while. But it let me know that this is something that God has put inside of me. I have no regrets. I did that for almost 3 years. When I came back to the States, it wasn't that I was homesick, but I thought, oddly, that coaching a few Olympic Games and the World Championship, or coaching at Olympic Games and the World Championships, would separate me out from any other applicant for some of these mid-major types of jobs that I was going for. I'm not somebody that's ever really applied, and I know you don't apply to big Power 5 jobs. They'll find you, they'll seek you out. Those are the conversations that are happening in the smoke-filled rooms that we're not invited to more often than not. But I got to experience so many different cultures. I got to travel the world doing the sport that I love. We had tons of success. I often say, knowing what I know now and kind of the pathway of the things that have happened to me, I'd say that I wouldn't have ever left. But it was one of those things to where, maybe 5 or 6 years in, certain things that I would have wanted to have, like, for example, when you're there, you're pretty much there till there's like an antiquated break. But different than school, you don't know when your antiquated break is. So you're there for months on end. Like, you'll talk to a manager, hey, look, I want to get out of town for a few days. And they literally could tell you yes or no. And I'm like, look, I'm a grown man. You can't tell me if we don't have practice. And then there'd be a couple of times where the wires would get crossed. You come to the track for practice, and then the guys don't show up. And I'm like, call the manager. Hey, where are the guys at? Oh, they're going to be gone for a week. They're going to go home and see their families. Why not tell me? And now I'm here stuck. And again, some of those things were just those things. Those things got old real fast. I'm a very punctual person. Don't knock me for tonight. And so I think one of our first travel trips, I was talking to Coach T about it today. We were supposed to leave at 3:00. It was like 5. I'm sitting here in this lobby of the compound we're staying at. Well, where is everybody? Why are we not leaving? I thought our plane was like for 6:00. Mm-hmm. And so I go see my guy, Coach T. And we're like, oh, no, the bus is coming now. Inshallah, the bus is coming now. Inshallah means God willing. And inshallah is like an everyday term, because anything that has a fixed time on it, they ain't going to be fixed, or will it be on time? So our flight was for 6:45. At about 5:45, the 2 buses get there to transport everybody to the airport. We bypass the airport, go down this one little alleyway. We are on the tarmac. We pull up to the big 747 Boeing jet, and they escort us onto the plane, and we still leave on time. But we didn't have to go through security. I'm like, wow, okay. This is why we don't have to leave on time, because I was all prepared to have to go through, security and everything. So it's things like that were kind of fun and cool to experience. The places that I traveled were amazing. A couple of the countries, went to Sri Lanka, Mannheim, Germany, Kuwait City, Oman. Got to swim in the Dead Sea, or float in the Dead Sea. Went to Morocco, Belgium, Brussels, South Africa, Turkey, Qatar. It's not Qatar, it's Qatar. It's for us Americans that just disrespect the way other people's countries are pronounced. And maybe like 50 other places, man. So that was just a time in my life to where I was fully embracing experiences, meeting people, traveling the world, connecting them international recruiting contacts. Because I always knew, I was going to make a segue to get back to the collegiate space. So it was just a very unique opportunity that came about because of somebody that I knew that I fit the mold for what they were looking for.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to hinder you from doing things. I know when you got back into the collegiate coaching, remind me, then you ended up at East Tennessee State University. You did a tremendous job there with that program, watching the evolution with you and your former coach, one of the former coaches at Tennessee. But it affords you all of your movements and pathways. Again, you're giving honor to guys managing your pathway and how it goes. So sometimes, we go through different things to get to the blessings that are come to us. So it's going to be slowed upon us. Now you enter into your first director position on the collegiate level at Warner University. You just completed your first year there. How was that transition as you're building your program, your style, and all of the visions that you have, that you've learned through all of the places that you've gone through, seeing the different things from other coaches that you experienced, head coaches and other assistant coages. Now you're implementing what you want to see and how you want to build that program at Warner University. How did that come in? How was the transition coming in there? And then take us to where you are now and where you see the vision for the program.
Okay. Before I say any of that, I want to first thank every head coach I work for. And also I want to thank them, and I want to apologize because this stuff ain't easy. It's tough. The amounts of things that'll pull and tug you away from coaching. Like, I'm a coach. Like, I'm not an administrator. And I'm a player coach. So I like to be at practice. And the first thing that comes with being this director is, if you got to go to this meeting, you got to go kiss this baby, shake this hand, the practice is the first thing to go out the window. And then managing my staff, I grossly underestimated what that whole setup is, for only any other reason that I guess because the places that I've been very fortunate and very blessed for us to work, like, they were smaller staffs, and it's like everybody kind of had their flow of I've been very fortunate to work on staffs that, like, most people, did the things that they were supposed to do, so it wasn't a lot of coverage of other things. But bringing in the staff that I have, I went a little different way, and I'll explain to you why. So when I first got here, I knew, I wanted to create opportunities for the assistant coaches that I bring in here, whether they want to have their own program at a later point or elevate into a greater and higher position. So in the first year, I named my coaches of their event areas lead coaches, kind of like offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, but lead men's sprints coach, lead women's sprint coach, hurdle specialist coach, all these things that give them a little bit better sounding title than assistant coach. Because if I can have all my assistants operate like a head, then we're really going to be kind of playing with fire in a good way. So I went about building out my staff with actually an older caliber of coach, highly experienced. A gentleman that I worked in Saudi Arabia with is on my staff. His name is Taiwo Rio. He's from Nigeria. He's in his mid-50s. Coach Stephen Rivers, who has been a very successful high school coach in the last in Tampa area for the last 25 years. I recruited one of his athletes, Alfreda Steele. You might remember her name, Coach Price. Went on to run at the University of Miami, 1102. And so I had met him as I tried to recruit her at the institution I was at the time. And I was like, man, you keep producing these 100 and 200 meter girls. You obviously know what you're doing. There was an opportunity for me to have an assistant at Tennessee or East Tennessee State. And I wanted it to be him but just financially we couldn't work it out. So I said, listen, man, if I ever have an opportunity, I will keep you, in the forefront of my mind. So when this opportunity came up, it was a call that I made. He obliged, and we were off to the ground racing. I have 2 women on my staff. My wife, Katrina Seymour Stamps, and Akaya Evans, who works with my men's and women's mid-distance, distance, and cross country, and just helps me with recruiting and some operation stuff, operation tasks. So I really wanted to build the type of staff that when we are out in the recruiting space, they understand this is an elite staff. I've got coaches that have coached, All-Americans, national champions, Olympians. Coach T has coached the last 5 Olympics. He's just a world championships as the head coach for Nigeria this past year. So that was, awesome for him to be a part of what we're doing here at Warner. As we inherit the class that we inherit, the previous staff, no disrespect to them, they had the style that they had, and it was very kind of loosey-goosey, come and go as you please. If you want to come to practice, fine. If you don't, there's no punishment. And I don't run no ship like that. You don't have success like that in what my experience has been. So it was very hard pressed these first couple of months. We were started. Hey, practice starts at 7 a.m. Don't come rolling in here at 7:05 or 7:06. You'll get sent home. Oh, coach, that's not right. You made me wake up. Well, you late. Well, I don't understand that you woke up late. You got here late. You don't get to practice. That's a very simple concept. If your gate says the last call to get on the airplane is 6:51, if you get there at 6:55, on that door it says we will not open up the door for your late self. That's how I run my practice. So that, early on led to some people saying they don't want to be a part of that, and they moved on and removed themselves from the program. And then I had four women on my track team last year. 4. On my men's side, I had 9. So previous staff, recruiting wasn't a strong suit. So I came into a deficit. I came into a hole. We spent the entire year bad. I had some bright spots with a couple of kids we had make it to nationals. But as we're watching Dion's first season in real time, all those faces and all that beat up, I all experienced that last year. Mm-hmm. Going to a track meet knowing this is going to be rough and watching it be rough and being in the rough and understanding that guys will get better. So we got to build this thing. We got to stay encouraged. We can't get mad. We can't get down on ourselves. So you find out a lot about people and a lot about yourself when you are finally leading something and it ain't successful. Mm-hmm. That's the first time in my life I've ever been the team that has the least amount of points. I can't even say it. I can't even say it. I refuse. But like he said, you better, last year was, you could catch me now. You better get me now. Because once this train gets rolling, which we have, and we're excited, we open up our season next Saturday, and we're really excited to see what kind of performances we put out there.
So the vision that you had, again, you stated before, it's a winning mentality and everything. So I know the pressures that you felt last year. You probably start questioning stuff last year. What are we doing? How are we going to do things? But yet the resolve never stopped you from where you're trying to get to.
Right. So where we're at this year is, we took a lot of our lumps. I told everybody that first year was going to be ugly, but we had to stay encouraged. We had to stay motivated. We had to stay loving. I coach with my heart, man. I will give these kids a shirt off my back if they needed it. And since they've not really understood what passion looks like, they thought I was mad all the time. Kids thought I was angry. Coach, you just are so serious. Yes, what? I'm serious. This is how I feed my family. And so I have to be serious because you're telling me that you ain't. So guess who's not going to the track meet? I'm not taking nobody that's not serious. My name's attached to this. And people know that if my name is attached to something, it has to be of a certain level and a certain quality. I like my references. I'm a movie guy, man. I love watching movies. I said, y'all have all seen, Denzel's movie when he's and I can't even think of the name now that I say it, but Blue Magic. You know, um, it's a brand name. And if you go and make something not Blue Magic and you say Red Magic, you call it this, and then people start thinking that this is something I'm associated to, then they're gonna think it's some old mess. And I've got too many shoulders of giants that I'm standing on for me to finally have my shot and not start to move the needle in the manner and the capacity that it needs to, because it has to be disciplined. Our vision is discipline. Our vision is discipleship. Our vision is caring for the person to the right or to the left of you and being on time. And then none of those things has it to do with the X's and the O's of track, because me and you and our coaching colleagues and our friends around the country that do this sport that or do this profession that we love, we know how to get people better. The body's an amazing thing. You just train it and it's going to go farther. Now, the level and the frequency and the consistency of that is attached to the programming and kind of putting these puzzle pieces in place that everybody's a little different, but everybody kind of has to move the same type of way, because we all know we don't have infinity hours in a day to train everybody individually. So I wanted to get away from it being about the performances that are going to be on the track. The performances are going to be what they are on the track as a byproduct of you being a better human being. And so being a better human being is kind of the mantra that we're working on this year to put us in the position of greater value success down
the line. Okay. I see where you're going. So the vision of Warner is step by step, the process, but understand that we're not going to accept the losing mentality or effort towards getting to that prize that we're trying to get. So we learn a lot more about you and about the program. So what for, you might have some people that's looking at this, looking at like, I want to see this coach. This coach right here is going to be a person that I really want to be under their tutelage and everything like that. What can you say? This is time to pump up Warner University. Like, what are the great things about Warner University and also the program that you have established and building?
Okay. Well, Warner has a great academic reputation. We're a Christian university, faith-based, and we're about 2,000 students total. So very small, again, intimate, collegiate experience. We're 45 minutes south of Orlando, so we get ideal training weather year round. It is 85 degrees today and sunny, not a cloud in the sky. I had a recruit on campus and she was like, whoa, this is what it's like in November? Yeah. And it'll be like this in December, and it'll be like this in January, and it'll be like this in February. So I love the weather, for where we're at. Academics are, again, very highly touted here. We're called the Christian Southern version of Harvard. Every one of our professors has a doctoral degree, and that isn't everywhere. So that's pretty awesome. My friend that I was talking to the other day, the coaches at a school that's within our conference, says, Stamps, you've been in the Division I. What was it like? What's it been like coming down to the NAI? I said, there's your first mistake. What are we coming down for? I'm coming across. Last time I checked, young man from Florida Memorial ran 998 at our conference meet in the 100. And so he would have won every conference in the country, I'm pretty sure. So, I kind of always, shoot that to everybody, because just because our division is different, our schools are a little bit smaller, track and field is track and field. So if we can get a 47 or 48-foot triple jumper that's at an NAIA program, they're going to place at the NCAA program. And, our nationals are different, but our track meets are all the same. You're going to go, if you run fast enough to get in a fast heated Miami Hurricane Invitational, you're in there. Do that at USF, you're in there. Having those opportunities to be at a place that allows the type of freedom and flexibility I have to push my vision, push my agenda, so to speak, in the service of these young people, I think is a flex in all its own. My staff is the secret to our program. I believe if Warner was a Division I school and they gave me the same opportunity, in about 5 to 6 years, we would be a team very similar to what Coach Ross did at A&T before he landed at Tennessee. So, understanding that, we understand those X's and O's, the only thing that's going to get us better exponentially faster is better athletes, which and do better athletes willing to forego the stigma and the title associated to going to a D1 to go sit on the bench or to go be a walk-on at Florida State or Florida or wherever just to put on a t-shirt. Now, if that's what you want to do, I ain't going to hold you. I ain't going to fault you, because that's the decision and choice you make. It don't impact me. Right? So that, for me, my staff is really something that sets my program apart from other people. You got the great weather, got great academics, and you got an intention. Like we have a shirt that has heavy on intention. I've been mistreated in this capacity of the coaching profession at times, so I'm always going to advocate for right, fair, truthful, and standards. So, putting all those things together to say, hey, come be a part of our buildup. There's not a lot of programs in the country that aren't necessarily seeking their identity, but are in the midst of a rebrand, in the midst of developing, newer, better relationships so the kids can have better experiences. Every other school in the country that has a track and field program is relatively established, and you're either going to come be a cog in the machine of what it is, or you can come to Warner and be one of the people that put a foundational brick in our foundation, because there's only a limited window for that to take place and happen.
Oh, great things. Now, as we start to wrap up here, I want to give you an opportunity to, you said a couple things earlier, but just want to give you an opportunity to shout out anybody, those people that help. You say you're on the shoulders of others, give a shout out to them. And then also this time a little bit about something that to the masses of coaches out there striving to get to the position of having or going through the assistant job and then trying to get to be ahead at their things. Anything that you've seen, or I know you mentioned things about the budgets and administrative work you have to do, but give some key ventures for those younger coaches or those older coaches striving to be in the position you're in.
Okay, so I'm gonna shout out the people that I know I would not be here for if it wasn't for them. No particular order: Ernest Dixon, Kevin Foster, Ian Dubé, Vince Anderson, George Watts, Bill Webb, Amy Dean, Kareem Jackson, Chris Asher, Eric Campbell, Matt Belfield, Marty Sonnenfeld, Ernest Dixon, Sandra Lord, Wendy Trevelyan, Audrey Dempsey, Milton Campbell, Mike McLeod, Mr. Williams, our principal at McEachern High School. I think I said Lee Gower, but I'm gonna shout him out again. That was my high school coach at McEachern. And my grandfather and my mother and my father. So that would name the people that help the man that's here talking to you before you today be in this place. The one thing that I would say to any coach, young or old, that I think I could give a little bit of advice to, I'd say delay does not mean denied. And patience is a virtue. And to be virtuous means no matter what you're working, somebody is actually watching. If you want to be watched more, perform at a higher level. You have athletes that can put you and elevate your opportunity to raise in this sport. Because in a very simple task, everybody's looking for a coach that can produce and make results when they count. And there's never been a coach that's out of a job that's ethical, that's righteous, real, and, you know, a decent human being, not even a good one, a decent human being. Those guys and girls are highly and regularly employed. So just be patient. Treat others like you want to be treated. Gain knowledge. These USA Track and Field Coaches Education Program, that and USTFCCA's stuff now, the coaching college and whatnot, do those things. Those things matter. Those things are important. Those things help fast track you in a space and capacity to some of these other jobs that you want. So, you know, once I started really understanding how to implement and put into place all this knowledge that I've gained, as you've said, you saw East Tennessee. What drew me to the opportunity at East Tennessee State is, again, I've always been kind of a builder, and I've always liked the nondescript type places, because then when we show up at the national championships with a female 100 hurler, knowing and understanding how difficult it is to qualify a female 100 hurler from a non-Power 5 school, and then you get to say Georgia, Texas, Florida, East Tennessee State, Miami, UCLA, USC in Heat 1. that to me is my thing. Like, I've always been the guy with the chip on his shoulder to try to prove people up. Like, I'm gonna be at the national meet. I might not be there with the whole squad, but I'm gonna be at that meet. You guarantee that? And me and you, I know, can vibe off of that, because me and you were always guys that were like that, you know, prior to, you know, in prior stints and prior stops of our coaching journey. You know, so I think that would be the advice that I give. Your greatest equalizer is your ability, little asterisk, your ability to recruit and your ability to perform when it matters most as a coach.
Nuggets. Those of you, hopefully you've taken everything that Coach Stamps has really impacted onto you all. He's a man of faith, a man of vision, a man of morals. He wants to go out there and he's going and he's doing it. He's doing it right now. Where he's done it everywhere he's been. He's doing it now, impacting people's lives and the kids and his staff to be able to produce champions, produce the mentality it takes to go out there and be a champion. And it has to be a championship mindset you have to put into place. And then through that championship mindset, the body's going to follow. But you have to be there mentally where you want to be. And, you know, Coach Stamps has been a embodiment of that throughout his career. And I want to thank you for being a part of this program, being able to share your story to so many, and then see the vision of where you're trying to, where you're going to lead. Not trying to, where you're going to lead Warner University in the near future. We're wishing you nothing but the greatest for this year. And I want to thank you again for being a part of this program. All this is about uplifting people in their programs, and then also giving an ear or a word to those coaches out here to how they can be better adapted to what they need to do to be winning these trophies and everything at NAIA level, conference level, NCAA level, and then producing people that's going to go over to have a better career, whether it's in sport or out of sport. It's not just all about the sport, but through the sport, we bring in additives to where it's going to teach you about life.
Yeah, I'm with that.
You know, so again, thank you for watching this episode of The Making of Champions Season 5. Coach Hassaan Stamps, Director of Cross Country Track and Field at Warner University. A man is a beast. So if you don't know him, and if you think you know him, you need to go ahead and have a conversation with him and get a better depiction of who he is, and he'll let you know who he is and what he's about. Coach Stamps, thank you again.
1000%, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, blessings.